Just in, Social Security 2025 COLA revealed, and it may be one of the most significant boosts in recent memory. For tens of millions of Americans who depend on Social Security every single month, this announcement could shape not just their budget, but their sense of stability, dignity, and even survival in the months ahead. For years, seniors and retirees have anxiously awaited the annual cost of living adjustment, the COLA, that determines whether their monthly checks keep pace with the rising cost of everyday life. And this year, with inflation still pressing down on household budgets, medical bills climbing, and grocery prices refusing to ease, the 2025 COLA has been revealed with a number that's already stirring debate, hope, and controversy across the country. The adjustment, officially calculated by the government using consumer price data, comes in at a 3.2% increase for 2025. On the surface, it sounds like a technical figure, but behind that number are very real consequences for real people. For the average retiree, this means an estimated increase of about $59 more per month, bringing the average Social Security check to roughly $1,935. For couples who both receive benefits, that increase could add up to more than $110 extra each month. And for those receiving disability benefits or survivors' benefits, the adjustment provides a little extra breathing room at a time when every dollar truly counts. To put it into perspective, an extra $59 may not seem life-changing to those in Washington or Wall Street, but for seniors in small towns, for widows struggling with rent, or for those whose prescriptions already consume half their monthly checks, it can mean the difference between skipping a meal and putting food on the table. It can mean affording that new winter coat, covering the rising power bill, or finally paying off that lingering credit card balance that grew during the hardest months of inflation. But this announcement doesn't arrive in a vacuum. Last year's COLA was a modest 3.4%, itself a step down from the record-breaking 8.7% increase of 2023, the largest in 4 decades. That surge was driven by the most aggressive inflation spike many had seen in their lifetime. Since then, policymakers have struggled to balance two competing forces, easing inflation while still protecting retirees from being left behind. For many seniors, though, the debate feels distant and abstract. What isn't abstract are the bills that arrive in the mailbox each month. Take the case of Evelyn, a 74-year-old widow in Ohio. Her Social Security check is just under $1,700, and after rent, utilities, and her medications, particularly insulin, which costs her over $100 monthly out of pocket. She has very little left. A $59 increase may allow her to shop for groceries without cutting coupons until her fingers ache. It may mean she can occasionally take the bus to visit her grandchildren instead of waiting for them to come to her. On the other side of the country, in Arizona, Robert, a retired teacher, explains that even a modest boost can help cover his rising homeowner's insurance, which jumped by nearly $40 this year alone. It's not about luxury, he says. It's about dignity. You want to know you can keep the lights on without worrying. Supporters of the new COLA adjustment argue that it is evidence the system is working as designed. Social Security was built to be a safety net that adjusts with the cost of living, and this year's 3.2% increase reflects that promise. Analysts point out that inflation has eased from its highs, and therefore, so must the COLA. If the adjustment were too high, critics warn, it could place additional strain on Social Security's already fragile trust fund. And that's where the debate turns sharper. Some policy experts caution that while retirees deserve protection, the system itself faces long-term funding challenges. The Social Security Trustees Report has repeatedly warned that unless changes are made, the program could face shortfalls within the next decade. That tension, between immediate relief and future sustainability, creates unease both in Washington and among beneficiaries. Critics of this year's adjustment argue that 3.2% is simply not enough, considering how dramatically certain costs, like housing, medical care, and food, have outpaced overall inflation. A pound of beef, a dozen eggs, or even a simple loaf of bread can feel like luxuries compared to just a few years ago. Seniors living on fixed incomes often face a cruel reality. While the COLA is based on broad inflation data, their personal inflation, tied heavily to healthcare and housing, often rises much faster. For many households, then, the COLA is less a boost than a desperate attempt to keep from falling further behind. A couple living on a combined $3,600 per month may now see an additional $110. But when rent rises by $100, or Medicare premiums adjust upward, that increase evaporates before it can ever touch the checking account. Still, advocates stress that every dollar matters. The National Committee to Preserve Social Security has praised the adjustment as a modest but necessary step, urging lawmakers not to forget that millions of Americans rely on these benefits as their primary source of income. More than 40% of retirees depend on Social Security for at least 90% of their monthly income. That reality underscores just how fragile and essential the program has become. Looking ahead, questions remain. Will Congress step in with reforms to strengthen the program's future? Will inflation truly continue to ease, or could another economic shock force another surge in prices, leaving retirees exposed once again? And perhaps most importantly, will the COLA process ever be revised to better reflect the spending habits of seniors? Especially the disproportionate burden of healthcare. For now, the story is one of cautious relief. Beneficiaries will begin seeing the increased payments in January of 2025, with the adjustment automatically applied. No forms, no applications, just a larger deposit appearing in bank accounts and mailed checks. For some, it will be a welcome cushion. For others, it will feel like too little, too late. But for all, it is a reminder that Social Security remains the backbone of retirement security in America, even as debates rage about its future. This is not just about numbers. It is about dignity, independence, and the ability to live the final chapters of life with a measure of security. It is about a promise made decades ago, that those who worked, paid into the system, and built the nation would not be left behind when they could no longer work. The 2025 COLA is here. The checks will grow. The relief is real, even if modest. And while the future of Social Security remains uncertain, for millions of Americans, this adjustment is more than just a statistic, it is hope, delivered 1 month at a time. The story does not end here. It will continue to unfold with every grocery run, every prescription refill, every rent check written. And while the COLA alone may not solve the struggle, it stands as a reminder, even in uncertain times, the fight to preserve dignity and security for seniors is far from over.